Actually, man, things have been good. Guys are playing fast, guys are playing physical, guys are competing. Competing their tails off. You bring in Kelly and McCray and Bullard, Boyd. With Nick being here and some of the young guys that we have, I think we have a solid room. Solid room, guys that are competing, and the cream will rise to the top in this fall.
What was the biggest, when you go out and get all those transfers, what was the biggest draw to each of them? Was there individual draws, or was there a single thing that we need to get maybe quicker, need to get more downfield, more?
I think each one of these guys has like their special individual talent. The one thing with building a receiver room is kind of like look at it like a basketball team, where you want to have a point guard, you want to have a shooting guard, you need a power forward, you need a center. So we needed different pieces to kind of help balance the room out, and that's what we went out and did, in this last portal deal. And then like I said, we got some young guys that are coming along fast, and I'm really excited about the room and where we are at this point in the season.
It felt like speed was a big part of the ads with the portal. Was that something you particularly emphasized with some of those ads? Was that something you liked last year?
I wouldn't say we lacked it, but it's always, from a wideout standpoint, speed kills. The more guys that you can get that can, be that one play guy for you, the better you feel from a receiver standpoint and offensively. So we did that. That was part of the process of bringing these dudes in. First thing was like, can he run? How fast is he? What does that do for our offense? So we prioritized that this last portal window when we took these new guys.
Murray being a guy, he's been the guy whose names come up spring from other people. I guess, how do you describe the skill set for a guy that started at SEC level, had to go back down and now back up? Do you see that kind of drive to finish his career on a high note at another big program?
I'll tell you what, the one thing I will say about him, he is a tremendous kid, man. He's been great for our room, man. He's every single day he walks in the door, he's got a huge smile on his face. He's always got something slick to say, which is keeps the room light. Plays with a chip on his shoulder. He definitely feels like he has something to prove. That he came out and he was obviously at another school and then went to another school and did some really good things. But he feels like he's talented enough to compete at the highest level. So every day he goes out and he plays and he practices his tail off.
Year two from Nick, where we've been challenging him and whatnot this spring. What are the next steps for him that you see?
The next steps for him is, for one, is just still fine tuning from a route running standpoint. Challenging him to be, step out of his comfort zone. I need him to come and lead the room. Also just playing fast. Being a playmaker. Being that guy that we know on third down. The rock's coming to you. You gotta get open, man. And having that mindset, and he checks all those boxes. Right now, just getting the game, continually get the game to slow down for him, so he's understanding, what's happening on the back end. The more you understand it, the slower the game appears to you as a wideout. So we're constantly pushing that right now, and I think, with him, man, the sky's the limit for his game, man. He can do a whole bunch of stuff.
How different is it working with him a year into it now? We got him, he's young, he's obviously gifted, but now he's got some seasoning to him a little bit.
I think one of the biggest differences is now maybe the questions that he asks are a little more football, a little higher level from a football education standpoint, which, sometimes you'll ask a question, I'll look, but, did you really just ask that? But, so that lets me know that he's understanding what's going on the backside now, the things that he needs to do to get open from a tempo standpoint. Just being a student of the game, being more of a student of the game.
How and why did he and Aiden connect? You've been through this with, when you got to connect with a QB1. What did you notice in their connection maybe last year and how it's progressed?
I think, that connection with a quarterback and the QB really starts off, a little bit of it starts off the field, and then just confidence from what you do on the practice field. One thing about Nick, when he first got here, he understood where he was from a depth chart standpoint. He studied, came out to practice every single day and worked his tail off. And everything he got, he earned, he won. And he made plays out back, you know, that some other guys didn't make at that point in time. And that just bred confidence. And, you know, quarterback sees the guys making plays, you know, he's going to continue to feed him, you know, in the tough situations. And kid came up with plays, and, you know, we're on to the next level now.
How did Rodney Bulger come onto your radar? Because I know Bellows to say it's not the biggest, you know, school, but how did he pop on your radar?
Obviously, he had a great year, put up some tremendous numbers, and he was pointed out to me actually by Coach Flugar. You know, he's like, Hawk, man, there's this kid at Valparaiso, you need to take a look at him. And, you know, broke him down. I'm like, hey, man, I like how he moves. I like, you know, and gave him a call, and we got him up here, and you know, he's a Spartan now. So, you know, obviously we did our homework on him. He's a great kid, man. You know, he's a great kid. He's a great kid from the standpoint of academically, just off the charts. He's a kid that, you know, is working hard to learn the entire offense. You know, excited to have him, man. He's a tremendous playmaker.
Kind of spring has Alante had. It seems when we were talking to him, it seems like he's a guy that really wants to have a year to finally sort of put it together. You know?
Yeah.
You noticing that from him?
Yeah, he's been good. He's been working hard, and you know, obviously he has some leadership skills. Been one of the leaders in our room, but actually one of the leaders on the team. You know, comes out every single day. He's got a chip on his shoulder because he feels like he has something to prove. And he's made some plays this spring. You know, I'm excited about, you know, what happens. You know, what this leads to, you know, in the fall. But he's been everything up to this point, everything that we need from a receiver room standpoint and an offense.
Evan Boyd making the jump from MAC football to Big Ten. What have you seen from him this spring?
I mean, Evan has had a really good spring. He's come out, he's made some plays, plays faster than maybe we saw on tape. One thing about it, he is a football junkie, you know, and I really like that about him. I mean, straight up gym rat, just, you know, calling me in the evenings. He's on cones when everybody else is maybe at home playing a game. So he wants to be great. And he's putting in the work, and he's made some nice plays this spring, and can't wait to see what happens in the fall.
How much stock do you put in with spring ball? Like, there's a whole lot of time until the season, and guys are going to go on their way and work individually, and there's so much time until fall camp. But how much does spring ball inform you about where your room is at, or maybe what you guys need to work on?
You know, spring ball is one of the times where we actually get to focus solely on fundamental and technical training. I think the guys, between the coaches and the players, they get a sense of, you know, what their deficiencies are, and you know, we harp on them during spring, and then from here it'll be, you know, we'll kind of put it in their lap a little bit, you know, during the summer to make sure that they're working on the things that's been pointed out. But at, you know, at this level and with the guys that we have, you know, they want to be great. You know, they want to play on Sunday, so they're listening. They see other guys that have come through here and listened and are playing on Sunday. So, you know, I got my hooks on.
As a receiver yourself, what have you seen with Abe, and maybe when he arrived last year to now, and some of the progress that he's made? How does he make life for your room easier? Is he making life for your room easier? I guess it's probably the first question to that.
Yeah, no question. You know, for any quarterback, you know, coming from a different conference and then coming into the Big Ten, you know, we went through one heck of a stretch last year. Nobody talks about it, you know, but it was kind of here's an introduction to the Big Ten. And I think from there, he has grown by leaps and bounds. You know, I'd say the last 6 weeks of the season, you can see his progression. And I think he figured out, you know, what he needs to do, how he needs to approach studying, how he needs to treat his body, you know, how he needs to get out and, you know, lead more. So there's bits and pieces that I know for a fact he's learned about himself, and he's been applying them. And he's been great this spring. throwing some nice balls, showing some good leadership skills, and our offense, it goes as he goes, and I think he realizes that, and he's studying his tail off. He's got a chip on his shoulder too. I mean, because nobody wanted to be home in December. It was great to be with our families, but not really.
That permeates top down too, right? I mean, when you got the quarterback saying not satisfied, I mean, that kind of
that talks to the whole offense.
Yeah.
That's been the pulse of every single room, of everybody in each room working to get better, and then we'll be a better team, come this fall.
Thanks, Coach. You gotta get going.